Hello, 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 and welcome to the Drag Race RHAPup here on RHAP We Know Reality TV. I'm your host, Liana Boraas, and today we're going to be talking about RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17, Episode 9, another design challenge, this time inspired by Betsy Johnson. We got 3 different representative collections, and with me to deconstruct all of these looks is our wonderful panel. Of course, let me welcome in Aman Adwin. Aman, how are you?
I am great, and honestly, it feels correct. And everybody better fucking watch out because I'm coming for you, bitches.
Yes. I love it. And it would not be complete without Beth Dixon. Beth, how are you?
I am a little hungover today, so I feel like the brick that Marsha Johnson threw at Stonewall. But I'm doing well. This was a really fun episode, so I'm excited to chat with you both about it and to talk about another design challenge.
Yes.
Another design challenge, but we also got the reading challenge this episode. And I do feel like this episode was really all about the group dynamics because we spent so much time in the workroom. We got the reading challenge, with the design challenges, they spend so much time in the workroom. So you get a lot of kikiing and so many different interactions, and you get to understand the social relationships a little bit better. So I thought that this was a really fun episode, particularly for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we should just talk about the reading challenge right away. Okay, normally we get into the main challenge, but I think we have to break down some of these jokes. I was a little bit surprised, Aman, that Susie won. I probably would have given it to Anya, but
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not Aman, but thank you.
No, that's fine.
Although I'm gonna, do I look like a Aman? On the video watching.
I also was a little surprised because it felt like hers were a little more like understated funny, whereas I felt like not even just Audia, but a couple of her other sisters were just a little bit more like biting and cutting but like still fun and shady. So yeah, I was a little surprised that the Susie one.
I didn't even think RuPaul laughed at Susie. It was like a polite chuckle.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was like Susie had the 12 steps joke, which I thought I saw Ru give a polite chuckle, but I never really saw her sort of cackle in the way that you would expect Ru to cackle at the winner.
Yeah.
But I would say overall, this was probably the strongest reading challenge, at least that we've seen from the editors, right? Because we obviously don't see all the reads, so there could have been reading challenges that completely bombed. But I thought that this group did overall a pretty good job. Even the ones that were a little bit awkward, like Ariette's, there was enough banter like back and forth from the queens she was shading to kind of make it a little bit more engaging and still feel funny.
I think it's also important when you're bombing to like also be able to play and laugh along with it rather than like we've seen it where the queens are like, what do you mean? And like try to like not own the fact that they're flopping. I love when Ariette could just kind of go like laugh at herself a little bit, and she, does that where she covers her face a lot. She kind of laughs and shakes her head or whatever. And like it was kind of nice to see her be like, "Ah, you got me back," or like whatever, like I think this was a good reading a challenge. It is like you said, Liana, we often don't see, I think, like solid reading challenges. I think this was solid. I don't think it's anywhere near the best, but I think that it was a really solid like mini challenge for most people. So
honestly, it makes me very excited for the roast because I mean, I feel like we've already seen some of the queens talk about how we've seen a little bit of the reaction in the trailer for next episode. Some queens are like, "Oh, this is not going to be my forte," but I'm like, just picture it as the reading challenge. A roast is just a long version of the reading challenge. You just got to inject that same energy, tell those same jokes, and you get to do it about drag queens that you know. Sometimes it's about people that like y'all don't really know that well. Now you get to drag. What was it? Candy Muse,
Mistress, and Plain Jane.
And Plain Jane. Come on now, like y'all, that is ammo to the 10th degree. Okay, so I'm just hoping that they are able to really let it have it. But Lana tweeted a picture of herself not looking very pleased about the roasting challenge next week. So I'm like, girl, are you foreshadowing your departure? Like, is this the end for you, girl?
Probably.
But I thought that this was I thought there were a lot of fun reads here. I liked the one with Sam starred Anya. Like the silhouette joke was very funny to me.
That was great. Yeah.
I like the fact that Lydia and Corey came for one another. I was like, equal opportunity. Okay, you do what you need to do.
I think also there were jokes that at least like I had not seen on Drag Race before. So even if those jokes are out there, like the silhouette one, I'm like, okay, that may have been in the ether somewhere. Like maybe Sam didn't come up with it, but at least she was prepared to come with like a new joke. I thought, for example, Jules also. I mean, maybe Jules came up with it. Okay, like I'm willing to give her credit for the they them pronouns to Corey because she's the size of a group of people. Like that was very funny to me. But I mean, the reading challenge is something the queens can prepare for because they know that it's coming. So they can have some of those jokes. I'm hoping they kept some of those jokes, Aman, for the reading or for the roast challenge. So then that way we do get to see a continuation of this because like you said, it's the same joke structure essentially. So, it's just, like you said, an extended reading challenge, but we'll see. So because Susie wins, she is the one who then gets to have the advantage in the Maxi Challenge because as we said at the top of the show, it's a design challenge for 3 different collections inspired by Betsy Johnson. So Susie gets to pick which collection she wants to work with and then subsequently, choose the next girls that will then go on to pick. So she chooses the punk grunge flappers. And then she allows Lydia to pick next, who similarly picks the punk grunge flappers. And then we get like a teeny bit of drama with Lydia not picking Corey because that was the expectation. Instead, Butthole picks Lexi, which I thought was, again, another example of getting to see relationships that we had not seen before. I did not realize, Beth, that Lexi and Butthole were so close.
Exactly. I think that this is why I liked this episode so much is that for the relationship building that we get to see for the first time, but also we get to see different sides of people that maybe we've seen shades of in like passing, but not necessarily like, oh, this is part of their storyline, right? So Lydia and Corey have like just basically their storyline has been each other. So it was really nice to have this moment where Lydia could say, Lexi has been somebody that I just really have looked up to and has been a support for me. And that was really great. And then we get to see Sam do the same thing for Lexi and really, I think, propel her to be in the top this week was because of Sam. We got to see that side of her, like just like Trinity is like her drag mother having that opportunity to like go and help people. We get to see these different dynamics. And I kind of loved also seeing like Lexi talk to Jules about her outfit. And we like just different combinations of people. So I think that I agree with you from what you've said at the top. Like this was a really fun episode to really better understand the queens themselves at this point in the competition.
Yes, I agree. I did like the fact that we got to see a little bit of tension between Corey and Lydia or Lydia completely just forgetting, oh yeah, that's my man. I should have probably chose him, but oh well, but I feel like Corey, like what he ended up getting I feel like that's like kind of his aesthetic anyway. I feel like that's what he probably would have gone for anyway. So I feel like there's, no love lost there. But yeah, I agree. I thought that there was a lot of, we get to see like how the queens are maneuvering around one another. I did also love the fact that Jules did not choose Ariete because, she's right. She already has a win in this. I'm not going to give her the opportunity to make it easier on herself. And that was great to say that in the confessional because that might have led to, her eventual win. So I'm here for it. I love it. Yes. And Jules finally won a challenge. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Not to be, it's actually so funny because I have been wanting Jules to get a win from the get-go. And then the week she gets a win, I'm like, but I really like Lexi's. But whatever. Yes. I'm not complaining.
I was like, she should have won last week, but that's it.
I know. Okay. So the groups are Susie, Butthole, and Jules are the punk grunge flappers. Betsy's prom is Lana, Anya, and Corey, which was very funny because we get this racial segregation. RuPaul making a joke about
what would your high school name be?
It had to be Martin Luther King Jr. Damn.
Yeah, like,
with the
George
passed
Washington
over
Carver.
comment of Jules saying not Rosa Parks. That was like ooh. And the fact that
not on Black, they're lucky.
It
was still Black History Month. It was the last day of February, not on Black History Month. The last day That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then finally, the prenup group was Lexi, Sam, and Arietti. So let's go through all the looks. I have them pulled up here, and we can kind of talk about also, all of the relationships and stuff that came out through the process. So this will be a little bit of a catch-all to talk about everything from this episode. So Jules is the first queen we're going to talk about. As we mentioned, gets her first win here, which is such a gag to me, especially because she's been doing so well throughout the challenge. And I could just feel that momentum. So I think I was ultimately happy, Beth, that she did get the win here. It maybe was not my personal favorite look, but it was at least top 2 for sure. So I was happy with her getting the win.
I completely agree with you. I do have to say, I think that as I thought about the categories themselves, I do think that the prenup category is the easiest one to do because you can kind of say, okay, what have we seen for brides, and flip it on its head a little bit. And there wasn't as many colors. It looks like there were textures and such, but there wasn't necessarily as many colors. So when you have either the what was it, punk something flappers, I forget, punk.
Yes, it was the punk
grunge.
Yes, punch grunge flapper.
Thank you. I feel like there's already an inherent okay, I have to do something 20s, and I have to do punk, and I have to do grunge. There's more elements to what you have to do in that category for it to both read as Betsy Johnson as well as yourself. And I felt like the prom category to me was probably the hardest, because how do you do 80s prom in a way that we haven't seen over and over and over, essentially, right? And if you didn't do 80s or 90s kind of prom, they were going to read you for it because it's not Betsy Johnson. So I inherently feel like the prom was probably the hardest one to do. And when Jules comes out as what in my opinion is the second hardest one to do, and really trying to play with the textures, having the flapper influence that you can clearly see, you can see the punk, and the grunge-ness is also kind of there, which it's the part that is the most lacking, but it doesn't take away from the garment. It looks beautiful on her. It looks like it was made for the show. It doesn't look like she just constructed it. The idea of playing with all the different colors of the fur, I think, was the best idea that she had. And having that both line the skirt as a hem, as well as the stole, having the studs all over the place. It just was absolutely gorgeous. And I have to say, her face looks so much like Fifi O'Hara's in All Stars 2, that there were times where I was like, oh, is that Fifi? Every just once in a while, I was like, oh my God, Jeremy, what? But this was so well done. And I actually think the velvet being in 2 different sides actually was good for this outfit. The point is that it's supposed to be a little breaking the rules, so to say. And so you can't really see it with the lights of the runway, but I kind of was like, I would just stick with it and keep going, Jules. Even though Lexi's pointing that out, that's keep going. And I'm glad she did.
Yeah, I thought that this look to me spoke the most to me as a Betsy look, because like you said, it does sort of break the rules, and it does look very, very well put together. It looks like if the theme of the season look for all the girls was fur, which RuPaul would never do because they would cancel his ass in a moment. Although he'd be fracking, so I don't know about that.
I was faux fur. It was faux fur.
Yeah, if it were faux fur, I feel like this would easily be her season package look. And I thought it was great, and I got very, very scared because I was like, oh, this is great, but I was like, wait, I gotta wait to see what Arietti does before I can fully be on board and celebrate. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that this probably was the one that was kind of hard, because flapper and grunge together, what is that? But I see it. I see the influence. I see the flapper in the hairstyle and the makeup. I see the grunge in the color scheme of it all. And just the way that everything is sort of hodgepodge is so Betsy on the nose. So she did a fantastic job.
I agree. I think the grommets and the choker really bring up the grunge element of it. The finger wave bob wig also was a perfect choice for her to bring. So it was the moment that Betsy said, when I think of the collection, this is it. I was like, oh, okay, she's going to win.
Yep.
Come on. How do you not win after putting something together like that? So very happy for Jules. Excited for her to have her first win. And really just, I'm just really enamored with her. So
as I look at this photo, I just wish she would have done something with the shoe.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
With
Purple, blue,
mhm.
maybe
Yeah.
Yeah.
a slightly
Or
different
like
color.
put
I mean, it
studs
matches
on the shoe or something. You know what I mean? Like do
Okay,
something to
yeah.
tie it into the grunge or the punk look. I
Yeah.
don't think putting fur on it would have made sense unless it was a different color. But I do think like it would have been pretty sick to have some of those studs like on the toe of the shoe or along the heel or something. Not like just something that shows that you paid attention to how you were going to use your own accoutrement with it, you know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which
I
she
think if you're
did
gonna
do. I'm not saying that she didn't do that in any other place, but I'm just saying, oh, that would have put it just like chef's kiss because I do think that she was a little distracting as I look at this one photo.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of distracting, let's talk about butthole. So as I'm watching the looks, all right, obviously Corey, I was like, Corey's immediately in the bottom. And then I went back and thought about Lydia's and I was like, I think they're gonna put Lydia versus Corey in the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because Lydia Aman has this no, I'm not gonna say problem, but she has this propensity to like drape herself in everything that she can find.
Everything she is a glorified hanger. That is what she is. Like, I don't like, girl, you are a thin girl, okay? And that's great. No body shaming over here. But there's gotta be proportion. There's gotta be like a little bit of bust or a little bit of hip or a little, like, you gotta thicken yourself up a little bit, girl. Like, it's always just hanging. Like, all of her runways are like this, and I just don't get it. The only thing that didn't hang was the stiff penis. And I hated that look.
That's the quote.
So
That's the quote of the episode right there of the
I
past.
don't know. I mean, that's her style. That's her thing. That's fine. That's fine. And I think, aesthetically wise, I think that she got the I think she did the assignment. It's giving grunge. It's the flappers. Yeah. I'm just not noticing that she has does she have the wig on top of the hood? She has the wig on top of the
Yes. She has so she called it a face kini, even though like it doesn't cover her face.
It was more of a head kini without anything on the face. I was like, if you came out with a face kini, first of all, I think we'd be reading it down more than we are now. But yeah, she did have that. And then she put the same kind of fascinator on top of her head as she did in the last design challenge, or the one where she made the yellow, except for the yellow one was bigger. It was just
when she came around, I knew she was gonna be in the bottom. I knew it.
I actually don't hate this as much, but I do think she should have been at the bottom. But I honestly think like it's like she made the outfit to have padding, to your point, Aman. It's like if she had boobs, this was the perfect, you made it as if there were going to be boobs put into this. As you can even see for those watching the video, like if you're looking at the chest right here, it is just too big there. Like it looks like it's made for something
it's
like a
hanging
bust.
off her. Yeah.
And I don't actually mind the hanging off of it thing because I do think that that is something that's a completely legitimate kind of silhouette for somebody who is so slim and everything. I think that that's like a cool look. And I think that she brings such a fascinating idea to it. I don't hate this, but what I do think is like if she had taken off the kind of punk grunge, like, I don't even know what those like strips of stuff like around, like right underneath the arms. If she had taken that off there, I actually think it would have flowed better. And if she'd spent, to Carson's point in the the judging, a little bit more time really paying attention to the rouging, because that kind of material, like you said, is going to have highlights and better, or it's going to highlight you in all the worst places. So you have to be aware of how you're doing that. If she had taken that off, and so the shadows were really what we could see there, I honestly think that would have elevated it up so much more. I love that she has like this kind of sheer kind of bodysuit looking, like with the florals underneath everything. I love like the cattails kind of thing. I think that there was so much here that had potential. It just wasn't executed to the best of her abilities, versus the other two people who are in the bottom. I just generally felt like there was not it didn't matter how they executed. It wasn't going to be at a level that I thought was going to, like, this had the potential to not just be safe. This had the potential to be in the top, quite frankly, but it's just not the execution. It's just like not there.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far, but I do hear what you're saying, Beth, because I think that with Betsy Johnson, things are supposed to be discordant, but at the same time, there's a method to the madness, right?
Exactly.
And I feel like there's not enough method here, not crystal method, not enough method. There's just we're leaning onto the madness side.
Right.
Like when you're gonna do, like, Betsy Johnson is known for doing different patterns of fabrics. So for example, that, like, you can't really see it here in this picture, but the face kini material, which was like this floral with the animal print, I think that there's a universe where that could have worked. The problem is the floral print is almost too demure. Like you needed to be a little bit bolder to then go with that. So there's just like little things that potentially could have been altered to make this a little bit better, but I can understand why it was in the bottom, because like you just kind of look at it and it does come across initially as a little bit of a mess. And I think the other criticism that I would have for Butthole is just because we've seen this before, as Aman has said, it's just so, like, everything is so drapey. And so like you would be looking then in the same way that you might criticize Corey, you can also criticize Butthole for having a similar silhouette with just the very drapey, hangery kind of fabric.
Again, I'm not happy with the shoe.
Yep. So them silver slippers are about to take her home. If this is her aesthetic, that's fine. Like, I would still go see a Lydia B. Collins show, and if she came out, I'd still throw the dollars at her. That's her thing. That's her thing. I just think when it comes to Drag Race, you got to edit a little bit. I think that she's young. She's from Pittsburgh. Shout out to Pittsburgh. And obviously, she has a lot of great ideas. I just think that she has to edit herself a bit more when it comes to Drag Race. That's
and
it.
I think it was interesting too to also get more insight into her creative process, which is not to visualize what it will look like at the end, but to just kind of go with what you think feels right. And I think if she were to channel some level of preparation of ideas of like, okay, this is what I want it to look like, rather than this is the vibe I want to have with it, I think that will just help her to really tailor those rough edges. Like I said, I don't think this as it is right here should have been anywhere near the top. But I think that if she had a clear idea of how to accessorize it, how to make it fit properly, how to do those things, this had the potential to be something very different to propel her to the top. It just, execution wasn't there.
Let's talk about the last queen in this category, which is Susie. I
honestly felt like she could have been in the bottom.
Oh my God, same.
I honestly,
really?
I definitely, I'm going to be 1,000% with you. I think Lydia's is more interesting than this. And there was a time in my life where I thought to myself, boy, I could have switched Lydia and Susie for this. And I know nobody else will agree with me on that, and that's totally fine. I think this is boring as hell. And I think at least Lydia's was like, I know I'm looking at a lot, and I can understand what the idea is. It's well tailored.
I love this, and I'm like, I guess I'm in the extreme minority, because when I went to go watch it with my friend, and when she came out, he was like, she's in the bottom. I'm like, what? I don't know. I really enjoy this. I do think that it is, because there is a spectrum, right? When it comes to Betsy Johnson, you think fun, you think punk, you think grunge, you think in your face, you think sort of just like, as you said, Liana, discordant, but it still works. So I think, could this be more discordant? Yes. I do think that it is a little too matchy-matchy. But I think that the execution of it is just so, it's just, I live for it.
But
and I live for the variety of, it's not quite flapper, no.
It's gladiator.
I would say that the most flappy thing about it is probably the skirt, because it's kind of given, frills at the bottom. So that's where you get the flapper. But I love the fact that it wasn't full on flapper, because it is Susie, and we have seen that from her over and over and over again. Would they have read her for being a flapper this time? No, because that's the category. But I'm glad that she still was like, you know what? I'm not going to play it as safe. I'm not going to give you my usual shit. I'm going to try to do something a little different. And she really leaned more into the punk grunge side of it, more so than the other girls did, and I thought that was the way to go if she's already bringing Flapper as it is. So I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I love the leggings onto the boots. And the way that she presented
cool.
it,
I
the energy coming out onto the stage, how she like shuffled back, it kind of was kind of reminiscent of the fucking twins. But I loved it. I loved it.
So here's the thing. No one can deny that the hems look great. This looks well made and that kind of thing. I understand what her vision was of trying to like make a modern day Flapper, but I don't get it modern day Flapper from this at all. I like I said, I get Gladiator. This looks like if she were in a video game and her character's like kind of a Flapper kind of thing. This is like a skin you would buy for, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like when I go and play like Overwatch, this looks like an Overwatch skin for like a character, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that, but I don't know.
Is it a
and I also
grunge Gladiator though?
Yeah, it would look cute if that's what she was going for. But when she's expressly trying to be like, hey, like I'm trying to do like what would a modern day Flapper look like? I'm like, I don't know if that's what I would get from this if I didn't know what the collection was. Again, like it's not bad. It's just I also don't know if I really get Betsy Johnson from it. I really hate her makeup. I hate it. It's like she's trying to do Bianca Del Rio and not succeeding.
And with the white line too that Michelle told.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
told Bianca to get rid of.
I love the way.
I am
and
in
I
the
loved
minority, honey.
That's okay. Well, listen, we know that I'm full of minority opinions this season. So
I think for me, the other thing I thought of her other design challenge look. Like maybe it was because of the asymmetry with like she's gonna have something on the arm, she's gonna have something on her shoulder here, she's gonna tie stuff around her arm. Like that's what we're gonna see. So I don't know. And then for me, like that was the first thing that I thought of, and I absolutely hated this look. I think this one is better than that one. But I did like I understood her concept of what she was going for. It was just to me something it just didn't sit quite right with me. I think that there was a universe where she could have been the third. I would not have put her in the bottom. I still think I would have put Lydia probably below her, but I could have seen a universe where Susie does touch the bottom three.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next Corey. Let's move
God.
on to our next category. We got to
need
talk
to?
about Corey. Where do we start? Where do we start with Corey?
I think that Corey gave up.
Beth, yeah, go. Oh, you think so?
I think, I mean, the nonchalant of being like, yeah, I'm in the bottom. And just like the confidence to know that, like the fact that like the night before, after making this like very intentional decision to make a long gown, and then just being like, fuck it, I'm gonna ruin the whole dress and then just walk out because I'm not gonna be as comfortable in it. I'm like, no, that sounds like you just gave up, honey. And you can be as shady and such as you want in that confessional, and I live for it. But you have not given us much this entire season. I think that it's pretty generous that you've gotten this far without some of the critiques that, like, even last week, I felt like they pulled their punches a lot with her. Like, listen, we're only talking about the garment. Or no, that was this week. Sorry. We're only talking about the garment. Now, I was like, no, punch a little harder if you need to. She comes from the family of Plain Jane. She can take it, right? Which is also kind of funny that she leaves the week before Plain Jane is like
I know.
one of the people. It's like almost feel like... Is there planning? There was so much I felt like produced with this that made sense. Like, I'm not saying that like it doesn't make sense or whatever, but oh no, I think she gave up.
Yeah, Corey. It feels like she tried whenever there's a runway or specifically design challenges we've seen thus far. It seems like she's always trying to force her silhouette into whatever the theme is supposed to be, and it can't work that way. It's like, yes, be you, but you gotta give us something. Like, there's like what about this screams Betsy Johnson? This could have been like just a regular, this could have been on the pink runway and it would have fit right in. Like, I would not have thought Betsy from this at all. Like, now it's supposed to be bridal, you know, or prenup, whatever the hell.
Prom.
This is the prom.
This is prom. Okay.
Prom. Yeah.
And I
You would have gotten sent home at my prom if you had worn this, first of all.
And then the breastplate, come on.
Thank you. Thank you,
It
Aman.
was just completely exposed. Like, it's ruining the illusion. Come on, like, you don't want, like, obviously we know you're all men in wigs. Well, some of you. We got a few trans girlies up in here. But come on. Like, you got, like, if you're going to give us the boobs, give us the boobs. Like, I shouldn't be able to see it from the side like that. It just feels very just, it doesn't look absolutely horrible. Like, if this were on season 1 of Drag Race, season 2, 3, 4,
it would have won.
No, yeah, you'd be like, yes, bitch, you better work. But we're on season 17. Come on now, Corey. Come on now.
Yeah, that's what was interesting to me, was because Corey had talked about, oh, I can't do the same silhouette. I'm going to make it like a longer gown. And then she chopped it up. And I'm curious, like, what she chopped up. Like, did she just chop up the bottom? Did she chop up the top too? Because was that breastplate covered, like on the sides, for example? Was it covered? Did she chop that up? I don't know. I didn't think of that before, but I think I do, Beth, agree with your assessment that there was a little bit of like, look, I'm going to be in the bottom. I've been in the bottom. Like, I'm not doing as well as I expected. Like, you know, what's going to happen here? So
I do kind of think too, like, I wish that we saw more footage of when, they wrap for the night and the queens are allowed to like stay. And like, I wish that we had like footage of those nights, because a lot of shit goes down on that like, they're like, well, last night I decided to make a whole new outfit. We're like, what? Where did that come from? Like, all of a sudden it's like a nonchalant like editing process. But it's so fascinating to me, because we never, if you look at the edit, we never see what the length of it ever was. We only ever saw the top. So I don't know, like, I want there to be a Drag Race conspiracy so bad. Like, what is it about what happened to Corey King's dress? Was it really horrible because if it was really horrible, they'd want to highlight that, right? So they would film it. But if it was really good, they'd also want to highlight. So why aren't we seeing the full dress? Like, was it only after she, like, the crew went home and she's working on the gown? Like, what is happening? But I want there to be like a little pound cake, CSI kind of thing they did in like All Stars 8. I want them to do that again here. Like, what happened to Corey King's gown?
Yeah, rumor has it that Anya Harding sabotaged again.
Stole all of the fabric off of her.
Yeah.
She's just, Corey's a little crunch. She should call herself Corey Crunchy King. She's just a little crunchy. Yeah, with a K. And I think she reminds me so much of Monet Exchange, because Monet in her first season, had all the personality for days, and the judges loved her and everything, but like just a little crunchy. And I think that Corey knows that as well. I mean, she said that she was very frugal going into Drag Race, which I think that all queens should be. I don't think you should be breaking the bank, but sometimes I'm like, it does kind of show a little bit. Like, you can still be frugal, but you gotta make it look expensive. But I feel like she was just like, this is a great opportunity for me to get my name out there. I'm going to do my best, and I'll be back for All Stars. And that's what she says at the end of the episode.
Call me a few more seasons of All Stars, and I think that she could be like, I really do. I like that comparison, because I do think that, like, I even would say that Monet has had some crunchy looks in All Stars 4, and excuse me, and even. It's not that she looked crunchy ever in All Star 7, but it's just not the same level of, like, it's a different drag, right? It's a very different drag. I think that Corey is still trying to figure out like what her perspective is besides incredible padding, a nice ass, and a mini dress. And I think that like that is great. But the thing that like Monet would bring, for example, that if we're just talking about Monet, for example, like she always brought this like Brooklyn urban kind of vibe to everything that she did. I love that Corey came into this season being like, I'm kind of like if RuPaul wear like, mini dresses, I like my blonde wigs and like those kind of things. And I love that. But all I get is I like somebody else. So I'm trying to do a little bit of that. And I feel like if Boston is like really important to her or something, like maybe there's something about, being in Boston, or something about, the culture that around that she's grown up, or the perspective that we could see a little bit more for her to play with. And I think that all it takes is a couple years of post Drag Race career money that always helps to really elevate her. I think that she's so fun.
I want her and Plain Jane to be on the same All-Star season. That'd be hilarious.
Yes. Oh my God, I'd live. Also, the fact that Corey and Lydia are now officially an item together, you know, and they have very different styles. Like, who knows? Maybe some inspo will rub off on one or the other. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about Anya Nerve, who does also end up in the bottom. And Anya has this tube that she made and then adorns with bows. I can't get over just how enamored I am with her. I mean, when she ended up in the bottom, I was like, there's no way she's in the bottom, so I don't even need to worry. I can see, though, why this was in the bottom, Beth. Because it doesn't exactly work.
I'm a lot higher on this than I think most people are. I mean, I take the critique, like when we got to actually see a little bit more during the critique of like what it actually looks like, and the hemline up here was just a little... Something in my apartment just fell. I don't know what it was.
I heard that, and
I got a ghost.
We just see someone enter Aman's apartment.
Oh my God!
It's Anya coming in to be like, "Be nice, bitch. What are you about to say?"
Yeah.
So there were some details on it that needed a little bit more finish. But in terms of like the actual concept, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like so cutesy and sweet. I think that the bows should have been a little bit like it does. A little top heavy to have the big one here, a small one here, and then a medium-sized one on the bottom. That feels a little weird to me. And I think the hair, if you're gonna do this, the hair needed to be a little bigger to match the bows, because your head kind of shrinks at the top. But in terms of like what she was going for, it's probably my favorite, not my favorite execution, but my favorite concept, I think.
I'm not mad at a tube dress. I'm weirdly not mad at the length. I know that they kind of like, she's got to learn the lengths and everything. And I loved that like moment where they were like, did you run out of fabric? And she was just like, I don't know what lengths they're supposed to be. I'm actually not as mad at the length because of the tool around the bottom to help give it a little bit of shape at the bottom. If it was a little longer or a little shorter, obviously it would have looked better. It's a better placement. And I like the concept, like you're saying, Aman. The thing that I feel like we're not getting with these prom looks is the idea of really, like, she throws in tulle and bows, but is that really just Betsy Johnson? No. It would have been great if she chose a non-latex, very different kind of fabric, something that had floral, maybe something that could have, like, instead of just making a tube top, maybe that's like a halter that comes around here, something that, you know, she can hang kind of like off of the back, like a skirt that's like a half back skirt or something, just something that like makes it a little different, without just being like pink on pink on pink, tools and latex, because tulle and latex, like, yes, very different, but like that is a combination we see. So it would have been great to have like really thought about what else can I use. And again, I think the prom thing was the hardest one to do. And what I love about Anya going with a very form-fitting latex look is who's wearing latex to prom. So I honestly felt like that was a really good idea to do that. But I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with the prom theme probably overall being the weakest just out of all of them. But I don't know. I wasn't crazy about this, but I think I hated Susie's more. So I would have put Susie in the bottom 3.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know.
But
honestly, I can't put Susie in the bottom over this though, because like it's just so arts and craftsy at times. You know,
right? No, I understand that. To me, it felt like if I was doing the rankings, there were like these, to me, this like clear 3 in the top. Then there was like this chunk in the middle, and then Corey at the very bottom. So it was to me about the chunk in the middle who was going to ultimately end up in the bottom too. But let's talk about Lana. So Lana ends up safe here after being pretty much always in the bottom for design challenges.
Well, she was safe in that first one, and it wasn't until she asked for critiques that RuPaul was like, "We almost put you in the bottom for it." So,
that's how I remember.
Safe, but also potentially bottom.
In my head, she was in the bottom in that design
she's
challenge.
been bottoming with the design challenges for sure.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, I don't know. Like, if you're thinking about a Betsy Johnson version of prom, like, I think there's a universe where this could also have been in the bottom.
This should have been in the bottom.
Okay.
Ooh,
This
okay,
is the one
Mon, you
you
tell
would have
us.
put
You tell
there.
us.
Okay, yes.
I just don't think that she knows her body well when it comes to designing for herself. She's very long, she's very slim, and I think that she always elongates her torso. I don't know why. You have these beautiful long legs. That skirt needed to be up here, like higher on your waist, because when you can't tell as much, but like frontward facing view, it's like the golden ratio is destroyed. Okay,
Right.
like it's like not. She looks so like a pack of gum. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like a gum stick. And I just think that she just needs to practice proportionizing a little more for herself.
She had said on Twitter, I think, because the comment about, this is a new silhouette for me. This is a new silhouette for me. She had responded to that on Twitter saying something about how she just always wore bras and panties. And so any clothes for her is a new silhouette.
I kind of live for that. That's kind of great.
So,
I do think that this was very safe. I felt like it was very, like, in comparison to other, like, everything is mostly finished. Like, we see the hems aren't as bad. Like, she paid attention to the hemline this time. If you look at the skirt, like, it is clearly hemmed all the way across. It's not just like fabric and that kind of thing. I agree with you, Aman. It's actually, for me, it's not actually the skirt length. It's where she put her waist with this almost like corset like top, right? The waist is almost too far down. And that's what is elongating, I feel like. That said, I just think she has a long torso. So that is probably actually where her waist is. But if she wants to make an illusion, she needs to bring it up a little bit more, especially if you're not going to pad or create much of a bust. And if you brought this up a little bit more and just had that line, even if it didn't actually go in like a waist would, the line tells us this is where my waist is. And I think that would have helped with the proper elongation of the legs even more, really make the focus on that. I did feel like I could tell that this was Betsy Johnson inspired. I don't think it was executed incredibly like, oh my God, this needs to be in the top or anything. I could see a world where she's in the bottom, but I did feel like overall execution was there. Like, it didn't look horrible. It was, I think, the best of the 3 prom looks. And I think that it's safe at the end of the day. I think this is her best constructed look for any of the challenges that we've had so far. Of like, I think that this is the best one she's done. And I loved her runway. I love that she had fun because then I got to see more of that personality that's coming out, and like, that's a little shady, but it's also like playful. We got to see her be playful on the runway and not try to be sexy. And I think that that's, for me, is what probably made her safe. Is that people were like, ooh, there's something little different here. Maybe we can draw that out a little bit more.
Yeah, I hear that. I do think it was also probably my favorite of the 3, but I was overall down on this category in general, so that doesn't really say much.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Arrietty. So we have 3 sort of designy queens that all end up with the prenup category. Arrietty ends up in the top. And I mean, I think she looks gorgeous here. She had talked about wanting to do, this is a merge of Arrietty, a merge of Betsy Johnson. I think she executed that well. I think there's no denying that this is stunning.
Yeah, when that camera zoomed in on the actual textures of that fabric and the finish of it, the girl's talented. Like, that's crazy. Like, this looks fresh off the runway. I really don't even know what else to say. I kind of wish like that there was more edge to it, but then I kind of don't, because I feel like that would kind of ruin what it already is. It doesn't. I mean, Betsy took well to it, so who am I to say it doesn't scream Betsy Johnson to me? Like, if Betsy likes it, then Betsy likes it. I don't think I would have guessed this is the Betsy. Like, if you were to put all of her runways out in front of me before the season, and I was supposed to guess which one was the Betsy one. I don't know if I would have guessed this one, but just the little application of the bow there, on her neck, which I guess is a bow tie, and then just like the way that it like billows down, like that fabric and that tulle. It's just so expertly done. But I can understand why she didn't win, but I'm glad that they acknowledged that she needed to be in the top for it.
I'm in the same boat, and I've been I don't know why. I've been sitting here going, there's something that this reminds me of, and especially her pose here. I don't know. This is so random, but she reminds me of Carol Channing as Hello Dolly. If Arietti and Betsy Johnson came together to do a 2025, and for whatever reason, Carol Channing is there still. Like, there's just something even about like the pose or whatever here that feels very like it's not showgirl, but it's like, what if we made this idea instead of prenup, like it's about the matchmaker, right? It's about the person who brings people together and is fabulous and decadent and like shows off, but in a way that I don't know. Like, I just think that this is like so cool. I struggle because I sit back and I go, yes, I do see the Betsy influence, and I definitely see the Arietti influence, and it's incredibly well constructed. It is incredible.
It's the color, I think. All black is not what you think of when it comes to Betsy.
And I know that, so like I think for me, I wish I'm going to say something and people are going to be like, what? Beth said this? But I think that Sam did the best with what the assignment almost was, which was black and white for this. And I felt like she actually did black and white. Arietti did all black. Lexi did all white. And I kind of felt like with a category where they wanted you to play with blacks and whites, I kind of felt like the white here is really that bow tie, which is cool, that bow for it. I think that's a great place for it. It's a little bit on the sleeve cuff area, but a little bit more white would have helped some of this like applique like really pop. But I also don't know where else to put it. Like, I don't think white tulle looks good for that, right? If you were to replace that with white tulle, it would look shit. It wouldn't look good. So I don't really, maybe the different color wig, I don't know.
It just needs a little splash of something.
Yeah.
I think for it to really be Betsy. I think that choosing all black is like, it looks so good, but like, yeah, it's just right off the edge. But it's so gorgeous. I cannot get over when they zoomed in. I was like, oh, that is like, she made that shit. That's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
So there is white underneath. So you can see there's like essentially a white shirt that she's wearing underneath, at least for the top. And it might continue down onto the legs as well. I think there's just not enough of that white peeking out to create the black white. Yeah, exactly. But I think that's kind of what she was going for. So I think if that fabric maybe had bigger gaps in between and you had been able to see the white a little bit better, it maybe would have better conveyed the black white dichotomy. But I think like just from a pure craftsmanship perspective, I can't get over it that she made this in the same time it took Corey to make Corey's outfit. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of situation. All right, let's talk about Sam. So Sam ends up safe here, although Sam, for me, was really the narrator of this episode. Like Sam talking about, talking about all the different queens and, Lexi, for example, with her struggle. Like, we just got so many confessionals from Sam. And I thought Sam was really funny. Sam is kind of starting to grow on me a little bit. Obviously, still represents the patriarchy. But from another perspective, I'm like, okay, I'm starting to see more from Sam in the same way almost that I had this growth arc with Trinity, where I was not a big fan of Trinity for a while, and then she slowly grew on me over time. Like, you have to respect the professionalism. I do see, when I look at this, I see Madonna, right? And we got some jokes about that on the runway, and so that's like the only thing that I'm kind of struggling with. I think she would have been maybe that fourth spot in terms of, just missing out on the top, because this is very Betsy Johnson once I get past Madonna.
Very. I loved what she did with the pearls on the bra. I loved the black on the left on top, black on the right on the bottom. Just in the way that she presented it was just very fun. I thought that she was seriously a contender to win. So when they put her safe, I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I thought that she did a really good job. And I saw somebody comment the other day on the last episode that we are some Sam haters. You know what? I'll take it. I might be a Sam hater. That's fine. That's fine.
We got a lot of comments on that.
But if I,
as if we were sitting here being like, she's a piece of shit. She's like, why? But we were sitting here going, oh, I don't connect with her, and she's clearly very talented. But yes, that's hate.
And I still don't really connect with her on that level yet. But I will say that I thought that she was going to be in the top for this look, and I'm kind of surprised that she was safe. I thought that this was a really, really solidly executed look.
I think we have a whole bunch of queens that are so good at design, right? And so I do feel like Arietti's, when we stopped and looked at the photo just now, that was the most I actually saw of Betsy Johnson. But when she was on the runway with the movement that you see, that's hard to get through a camera, that's versus seeing it in person. I felt like if the assignment when the designer is there is to have something inspired by Betsy Johnson and put your own spin on it, like, I appreciate her doing the 70-30, 70 herself, 30 whatever. I felt like Sam actually did something outside of her wheelhouse to match the theme. And for that reason, I almost, as sacrilegious as this would say, I probably would have put Sam above Arietti for the category, for the assignment, not for the construction. I think what Arietti did was like impeccable. Like, if it was purely construction, she should have won.
Yeah.
But I think that Sam looks more, and I mean, they even said, like, didn't you already make this look? And she's like, I know, it looks blah, blah, blah. But like, this is very, I guess it's almost the opposite of what Arietti did. Like, Sam decided to do 70% Betsy Johnson, 30% herself. You know what I mean? So it was like kind of the flip. And I kind of feel like when you have so many good design queens, and the fact that Sam has one with very different silhouettes, Arietti has done very different, construction looks and everything too. I get that. I just felt like she better fit the challenge. And I thought if there was a world where Arietti, for some reason, was called out on not being as Betsy, this would have been taking the place instead. That said, I do think that being safe makes sense. I think that there were stronger looks and that kind of thing. I think that she looks great. I love the ride me aspect of it. Just like, I loved her presentation of this, like flipping off the finger, having a bow that is half black, half white. Like, that is so cool. I don't know about the shoe being red. Like, I love a pop of color, but that just looks so weird because she's also clearly wearing tights. Stockings and such. And so I almost wish that the shoes were half black, half white, or one was black and one was white, or just something just like that. I guess if everything else is going to be, or a gold shoe if she has the gold jewelry. I don't know. But I thought that this was great. And I think that Sam needs a lot of praise for helping a lot of the girls out. Yeah. Now, I hope to all the people at home who will comment on YouTube, you understand that I have a healthy respect for Sam. But that said, I do not connect with her as a person. This episode helped me connect with her more as a person because I got to see, I don't know what her star sign is. I would not be shocked if she's a Gemini because I got to see two different kinds of faces at one time. Ooh. You saw her being like, I deserve this, like, blah, 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 blah. Y'all need to shut up. And that's all shade. That's coins. I get it, blah, blah, blah. And then the next minute being like, well, I got to go help these other girls, which is very Trinity as well, So I like that kind of thing. I do not connect with her yet.
Fuck Sam Star. No, I'm kidding.
And I said that shit. No, I'm just kidding. And I said that shit. No. But.
Oh my God. That's so funny. Yeah. Hey, look, let's create some controversy. Let's be the biggest anti-Sam Star pod. Let's lean into it. Okay. What were we told?
Just saying.
Woo.
Earl Sandberg taught us well. Yeah.
Oh, God.
All right, let's talk about our last queen, Lexi Love. So I have to say, the more I look at Lexi's, the more I became obsessed with it. Like when she was holding her hands together and sort of created that, like where it flowed to the side, and then realizing that that was actually just her full veil. I was so gagged at this. I don't know. There was just something about the way it moves, something about it just emotionally resonated with me, even though, again, I think Jules, from a pure technical Betsy Johnson perspective, did deserve the win. I just really connected with Lexi's. I just thought it was so beautiful.
This to me was my favorite, and I think it was my favorite because I haven't seen something like this yet. I haven't seen it. I see the punk aspects of like the ribbons up the leg, right? I see the like asymmetrical, almost lacy kind of bodysuit that looks like the lingerie that would be underneath a wedding dress, right? But then on top of that, having the star really be this incredibly beautiful, huge veil that doesn't swallow her in a way that you would expect something like that to be. And then the pop of color of that is very Lexi, but it also is kind of very Betsy as well. And I love that we have this moment. I just want to take a second to say I love two things that we got to learn with Lexi, right? So I loved her learning that Betsy Johnson was the first designer to have transgender people in her shows, and having her learn that on the spot. I think that was very endearing for a couple reasons. The first being, obviously, that's got to be so emotional to hear about when it's so tied to who you are, and to be face to face with that person. That's very powerful. But the second part of this that I think is just really great is that, she's very admitting, like, I'm on hormones and I'm very like emotional and I cry a lot and that kind of thing. And I love that we have somebody who is not afraid to say, I didn't know this, or I'm sensitive, or I'm emotional, or I'm all these different kinds of things, because even within the gay world, it's emotion is still seen as a weakness at times. And I love that we have someone who comes out and says, this is really difficult for me. And if it weren't for Sam, I don't know if she would have pulled this off, because I do think Sam had that tough love to sit down with her and go, bitch, you're going to have to do this. You're turning it out. Come in with confidence because you've got everything that you needed. And then she turned this out, and it was great. But I think this was a really great character development story episode for Lexi, shown through the eyes of Sam, which was interesting, almost,
I like the look. I think that when she came out, I was like, girl, you were doing all that crying in the DR about how you were so afraid about this. And I was like, you did good. You did a good job, girl. What's the problem? Now, you could say that she is wearing a glorified mosquito net on top of a corset, but I think the way that she presented it was very, very fun. The bow on top of that crazy hair is that splash of color that it needed. And it was just, like you said, Liana, just how she was able to like structure it and shape it. And just by moving her arms, it really changes the dynamic of the dress. I think that is just really, really fun to look at. She was like probably the most tantalizing visually, I think, in terms of how everything moves on stage. So it was a lot of fun, and I am proud of her.
Oh, all right. That does it for all of the looks. So after all of the judging, as we talked about, Jules got the win. And then in the bottom two, our couple, Production's Dream, gets to lip sync against each other. So it's Corey and Butthole, of course. And the song was Kiss Me Deadly by Lita Ford.
Great lip sync song.
I completely agree. Great lip sync song. Obviously, we got to talk about the lip sync, but the highlight here was the kiss. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
History of drag. It felt like the history of drag was being made in this moment.
I want to know if that was their first kiss.
Right? Okay.
Because if that would have been iconic.
No, like I think they were already fucking in the hotel.
That doesn't mean they've kissed Aman.
I mean, with the gays, you're actually not.
I'm just saying.
You're not off base there. But yeah, no, that was fun. It was. I did not expect it to happen. Like I knew that I expected the gag of them both being in the bottom and everything, but I didn't see that coming. So when that happened, I was like, "Whoa, okay!" And the judges were living for it. RuPaul was living for it. I thought it was
all the girls were like, "Ah!" in the background. Like it's a fun lip sync. I think they were both bringing a fun energy. Lydia is such a fun performer because she's not a dancer, but she has good rhythm and she's not afraid to move her body. And it just like, I don't know, there's something cute about it, like and charming.
Her facial expressions during this are really connected with the song for me. And, Corey was kind of leaning on the air guitar a little bit too much. And I think that sort of was like, yeah, of course, there's a rock song that's kind of, you can use that, but don't overuse it. It should be like an accent and not the main event. And I think that she kind of got lost in that. Whereas Lydia was just out here just like screaming and being a rock star and then getting kissed. I love how like you could see that it was about to happen. Like Corey grabs her. Like, it's like, we're going to do this, right? We're going to do this. And Lydia's like, we're going to do it. But like, let me get this last little lyric out first before we go. And then
I love it.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, very top and bottom energy there. We're ready now. Hold on, I'm not ready yet. Hold on.
And I was happy with Lydia winning. I think also just because I'm not that again. I'm happy to see more of Corey coming back on All Star. Like, I think in terms of this season, okay, like I think I've seen enough Corey for now. So I was happy that Lydia stayed. I did have a little bit of concern because for me, there were moments where Lydia was giving Dusty Ray Bottoms like a little bit in just in the physical movement. I was like, okay, is this working? Like, are we happy with this?
But pound the alarm, Dusty Ray Bottoms.
Bottoms. But no, I thought it was fine. I was happy with Lydia staying. I think that was the correct decision, both from the lip sync perspective and from just like a track record perspective. So I'm curious to see what next week we'll have in store for her. But that being said, it is the villains roast, so that's what we're getting next week with Candy Muse, Isabel, Mistress Isabel Brooks, and Plain Jane. So there would have been, I think, some fun in having Corey roast Plain, but
I know.
I also think that would have been a challenge Corey would have done well comparatively with. But I think that I say this with love. I think she probably still would have bombed.
Really?
Corey?
I think what I have learned is that I genuinely think Corey has a little bit of issues with self-confidence and like projects a lot. And I feel like when it comes down to actually having a bite to people's face, we see her instead try to play the quote unquote mind games. So she'll be like, oh my God, you're so good and all that stuff, rather than like actually going for reads. And even with like the reading challenge, I felt like she was holding back. So I have a feeling we will never know, but I have a feeling she could have been somebody that those three being on the stage, right, or being there, are going to talk back. And I feel like Corey's the type of person that could have been like, bitch, and like laughed at it, but like not actually bantered, versus somebody like Sam or Jules or somebody who's Susie, somebody who's willing to kind of like really banter. I kind of have felt like over the past few weeks, Corey's lost that ability too.
Well, that would have been fun TV regardless.
Oh, agreed.
Well,
Plain Jane beating her own daughter on her damn season would have been hilarious.
Sister.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there I want to say it was Lexi that at the beginning of the season she separated the girls into like the girls who can who can banter and kiki, and then there was like the group of girls that cannot.
Kumbaya girls.
Kumbaya girls. Yes, exactly. So I'm curious if any of that comes back up with this challenge, but we'll have to see next week. Is there anything else from this episode that either of you would like to talk about?
We have to talk about the goodbye line that RuPaul said to Corey. So I immediately texted Liana as, after, so it was, you are and will always be Drag Race royalty. Henny.
Hanny.
Danny.
Yeah, so we've been tracking this throughout the season because it started with Lucky Stars, who got "You Are and Will Always Be a Beloved Member of the Drag Race Family." Then Joella got "You Are and Will Always Be a Rue Girl," which just felt
Still
like so
my favorite.
shady. Then we jumped away from the "You Are and Will Always Be," where Hormona got "You Are a True Work of Art." Crystal got "Now the World Will Know That the Assberry is the Sweetest of Them All." Acacia got "You Were Unforgettable." And now we're back to the "You Are and Will Always Be" Drag Race royalty Henny. So yeah, we're keeping tabs on this. We had theorized that this was like the Julie Chen Moonves like love one another sort of Rue, just like testing out new lines. So anyway, we're noting that for the future. Okay.
Yeah.
You see that
Well,
tweet that Joella said "fuck you" to Corey King on Twitter, and then Corey King responded with the lyrics to "Loosen Up My Button."
that's so great. I love
That's
that.
amazing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we're done. We're out of here. The official anti-Sam Star Drag Race. All love. It's all love. It's all love. It's all love. Okay. Beth, is there anything you want to plug, social media or otherwise?
You can follow me at AugustaWind11 on Instagram or at Beth-Dixon on Blue Sky. And then this past week, the episode finally dropped. We've been talking about for weeks, but I was on the Diary Room with Aman and Lagori. And so if you want to listen to some pretty interesting wheels, we have 2 from one season that go up against each other. It's kind of a fun moment. Please go ahead and check that out. And you should subscribe to the podcast anyway, even though that's really more Aman's deal. You need to support Aman and Lagori. It's like one of the best Big Brother podcasts you can listen to.
Thank you. Well, I mean, that was gonna be my plug. So
there you go. You're welcome, Aman.
Keep it going.
Yes, check us out over there. This next episode will be somebody from Big Brother Canada, the latest season of Big Brother Canada. So check that out. I won't spoil for who it is. The last season. And that's it for me.
All right. And you can find me on Blue Sky at LianaIsm. Right now, Survivor has started. So Mike Bloom and I, we did our preview show. We did the draft with the other, I did the draft with the other podcasters. And then Mike and I are going to be back for another episode of the B&B. This week we have, speaking of Big Brother, Taryn Armstrong will be on to help us go through everything from a jam-packed season premiere. So check that out, as well as the Puya and Liana Lounge. If you want something that is not reality TV coded, Puya and I went on a vacation, so you get to hear all about that. I went line dancing for the first time at a place called Scootin' Boots. So I got
you better work.
Boots on. Yes. So definitely check that out. That's on the RHAP YouTube channel. And then we also have an audio feed, puyaandliana.com for all of that. So leave your star ratings and reviews for us on iTunes as always. It's very helpful for us. Thank you to the whole RHAP team for all of their help behind the scenes, getting this podcast out into your eyes and ears. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.